I wanted to just read this one example of libertarian ridiculousness. Nick Gillespie, writing for Reason magazine, who I believe is the publisher or the editor of it. Some refer to him as the free market Fonzie because he wears that bomber's leather jacket that he got from, I don't know if he got it from Sky Mall, but I know that you can get one that looks like that in Sky Mall. It just goes to show you how hip and now libertarianism is. Wearing a, leather bomber's jacket. That's totally in right now, apparently, with the kids. Anyways, he writes, criticizing the president, writing, President Obama is asking the Federal Communications Commission to reclassify Internet service providers, ISPs, from, quote, information services under Title I as telecommunications providers under Title II regulatory guidelines. This is all being done in the name of net neutrality. Reason contributor and Clemson University economic historian Thomas W. Hazlitt defines net neutrality as, quote, a set of rules, ... that's the ellipse, regulating the business model of your local ISP. The definition gets to the heart of the matter. You know your local ISP, Mr. and Mrs. Comcast, down at the corner in their family business, where little Timmy Comcast and cutie Evelyn Comcast go out of their way to make sure that you get all the service that you deserve from your ISP carrier. And gosh, they go and they go out back and feed the chickens and then come around, Ma, Pa, how can we provide the best service for all those people? We're your local ISP. And, oh, the Verizons, if you go in there, they give you a nice warm cup of joe. Goes on to say, the idea that the government will do a good job of regulating the internet, in parens, whether by blanket decrees or on a case-by-case basis. Decrees, as opposed to, just like statutory authority, is unconvincing to say the least. Apparently, that's the least that he thinks he can get away with saying, because that's all he says. It's just unconvincing. The most likely outcome is that regulators will freeze in place today's business models, thereby slowing innovation and change. This is laughable because it is such a pull-it-off-the-shelf, meaningless, absolutely meaningless saying. The fastest and most widespread internet connections that exist in the world today, it's arguably between Netherlands and I think Switzerland, but most people say Netherlands, which has had net neutrality laws since 2011. In fact, there are net neutrality laws all over the place. In fact, the idea that this will stifle competition is exactly the opposite. And in some respects, as far as I can tell, Nick Gillespie, he just I don't know. He must have some type of I got to put up 200 words on this. Because that unconvincing argument, that to say the least, that's all he says about it. He goes on to say, Obama's old enough to remember Ma Bell. I am too. Which was even worse to customers than today's cable and internet providers. Ma Bell was broken up per the statutory authority of the U.S. government. In other words, regulations against antitrust. I don't know. Is he saying that was not a good thing? I'm not sure. And he is smart enough to recognize the Orwellian contradiction in introducing onerous new regulatory regimes in the name of keeping anything free. First off, it's not quite clear what is onerous about this. These companies have virtual monopolies. to deliver these services. They seem to be making profits hand over fist. Unable to charge different services, different amounts of money, access to wideband services in terms of the providers. But this concept that he's smart enough to recognize the Orwellian contradiction in introducing onerous new regulatory regimes in the name of keeping anything free. Like that onerous regulation that says you're not allowed to kidnap people so that they can remain free. That's Orwellian, man. I can't get my mind around it. To these guys, like, they just don't even try. They just don't even try. And part of it, I think, is he must just mail this in. He's like, I've got to do this. But even the people out in the Silicon Valley, they know that what would stifle innovation is having a half dozen large companies basically say, we're going to decide which service gets better service. Which service can afford to provide better service to their customer base. This is just ridiculous, sad, sort of.
Would you call this his jump the shark moment?
Touche. I'm not even going to explain that because if you don't get it, man, you got to hand in your Sky Mall leather jacket because you're not hip.